What's up, everyone? It's your boy Shaft, aka That Mill Guy, coming at you with another interview today with another great Nami player. And I always love saying another because it just means the archetype is growing. It means we got more folks out there milling, we got more folks out there succeeding in the new meta as well. And kind of showing you that even in a world of RP law, whether or not you come up against a matchup a lot or not at all, the deck can still succeed and the deck can still do a thing. But I don't want to bury the lead here. I want to give the stage to my fellow guest here. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Right. Hello, my name is Juan, and in the past weekend I finished 3rd place in Swiss. Finished 10th place then at the Utrecht OPTCG offline regional, and I finished it with Nami. So first of all, I would like to thank Chef for the invitation for doing this interview.
Perfect. Thank you. And of course, I'm more than happy to have you here. For many of you that watch the channel, I always like to point out how, I don't want to put myself out to be, a super top tier Nami player. I'm just a content creator. People like Juan here, they're the good players. Okay, so they're the good players. They're the ones putting in the work there. I just play a whole ton of Nami. So I may not be the best, but I'm here to platform the best. So today we're going to be going over the top 10, or I guess formerly top 16, I guess is the way that a lot of people might look at it. We'll be going over some matchups and some just some Nami ideas from yourself. We'll be exploring some cards and some lists. So kind of everything in between there. So before we head into the list and the tournament itself, why don't you, Juan, walk me through your experience with the One Piece TCG? Maybe talk about when you started. How did you discover Nami? Maybe even talk about the first deck you played. How did you come to our archetype?
All right. Well, to begin with, I started playing before the game come out, and I started with Green Kid, yeah. And then when the game come out, I didn't have too many options to play, and then I only had one red. No, I got 2 red starters and 1 green starter from the prior list. So my only deck I could do was either Zoro, Kid, or Red Green Loud. I decided to play Red Green Loud from the beginning of the
I was going to say that was a good decision.
yeah. So I have been playing Red Green Loud from OP1 to the end of OP4. So it has been a really good time playing low, and I managed to get first place in Swiss in my first regional. Then I lost top 16, unfortunately. Then the next regional, I also did 9-0 on Swiss with low, and then I lost again on top 16. So I think I really achieved really good things with Red Green Loud. The only thing I would have liked to was to win one serial with Red Green Loud, but I couldn't. And then, like 3 weekends ago, I managed to win my first serial with Moria, so I'm really happy about that. It's a thing that I really wanted to do from the beginning of the game. And Shanks is my favorite character, and it's my favorite card, so I'm really happy about it.
Yeah. And I mean, like, with the Shanks leader coming out in OP09, I mean, I imagine you're excited to finally get a good Shanks leader. We had Film Shanks, which didn't really have the best reception, but it seems like we'll see. OP09 Shanks may not have the most powerful ability in the world, but we'll see if maybe there's a lot of red hair support coming out of that set to maybe boost that deck up. So hopefully, Shanks is definitely a top 3 character for me. So I'm hoping to see the character succeed as well. But talk to me about, you've had so much experience with other decks. You've had some mid-range experience with your success with Moria. You start off with a lot of aggressive lists like Kid or Red Green Law, which, Red Green Law recently won that big tournament as well. So there's a lot of success in some of the archetypes you've already played. What drove you to try Nami out?
Yeah. At the start, before OP03 comes out, Nami was released like in, I don't know how to say it, like before the set come out, they revealed Nami as a leader.
It's like a spoiler or something, yeah.
Yeah, spoiler, yeah. I really like the mechanic of Nami, so it was really interesting that they add another way to win the game.
Yeah.
So I wanted to try it, and when the OP03 come out, I really have the Nami deck done to play up the draw cards. I really like it, but it's feel like she needs something. She was not ready, I think, to play her at regionals. So at OP06, when Whitesnake came out, I decided to give her a try to a regional, and in Krefeld, I placed 34 with Nami.
Top 64. Okay.
Yeah, I bubble out of top 32, unfortunately, but I really had a good experience playing Nami there. Whitesnake feel the card like she needs.
Yeah.
Because all 5k attacks you can avoid.
Yeah.
And you can counter 9k attack with Whitesnake +4. So it makes Nami in a really good spot there, really hard to swing at. So maybe so with that card, Nami was playable for me. Yeah, that's it.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And I think, especially in the early days, like OP03, I remember I did like a short form, like TikTok style video. I was kind of bashing on Belmare. And a lot of people in the comments I wanted to point out, like, hey, like, you know, there was a time when Belmare was like the card in Nami, and that made me really think, like, go back and do some research on what people built when Nami came out. Because I'm used to, you know, 4 Impel Down, 4 Deathwing. Like, you know, I came in at peak Nami. I started playing Nami in OP05. So I was spoiled. I didn't have to do any of the work. Y'all did it for me. So, you know, I didn't understand. Like, I came in and I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. This makes sense. This makes sense. But you guys actually have to do the work in terms of building the deck list. I can't even imagine who was the first person that came up with 4 Impel Downs as a mandatory. You know, you play it just because it's a dead card, but you play it for its trigger. Whoever thought of that, you're a smart person. But when it comes to Whitesnake in 06, I think I feel you as well. Like, Whitesnake was such a big shift because I remember so many people, they didn't read it. They thought it was just 1k for the battle. No, it's for the turn. And I think that was a big shift. I would definitely like to see future events maybe explore that. I think maybe Bandai's a little careful with Nami these days. I think if we got another until end of turn, imagine if we got a card that gave us like plus 2k until end of turn. No, I think you would have to leader lock it. You would have to leader lock it. But it's really exciting to see the changes that Nami has gone through over time. So with that, I wanted to ask you, you know, obviously you enjoy your Whitesnake. You've had your fair share of, you know, Zephs, Mr. Ones, Deathwinks, but Nami looks very different right now going into OP07 and going into the list that you had here. I'm just kind of pulling it up on the side here. So how did you come across this list here? The list that you top 10 with here?
To be honest, you did interview with Ramsey, the best Nami of. Yeah. So I saw the list on Twitter because I didn't have too many time to test it.
Yeah.
And I just took the list. I tested. It was insane.
The list plays itself. Oh, I love it. You know, Rampton somewhere out there, he's laughing. He's right. He's so happy right now. I know it. I know Rampton's gonna watch this. So shout out to him. Especially like when I saw your tweet and you said you literally just took the list stock and you just top 10. I'm like, I knew it. I like. There's so many people out there that I see them in the Nami Discord and in my comments. They're like, I don't get it. I can't play it. It's weird. Like, why are we playing Perfume Femur, Apis, like all this stuff? And we're going to talk about it. So I'm really happy to see you, like, even with like you didn't test for like 2 months straight. Tested a little bit. You got in your reps and you thought it was smooth. Why don't you walk me through, before we go into the deck list specifically, walk me through your general thoughts. Like when you first picked it up, like, were you confused with the list? Like, did you think it made sense right off the bat? Like, what was your experience testing this list?
First of all, I noticed that he was playing Margaret. So I think in this set, when Margaret come out, it must be a card that must be in the deck of Nami. Because a blocker, which allows you to draw 1 card on play for only 3 dawn. And yeah, I think it's perfect. I had really bad matchups that with this blocker I can beat now.
Yes.
So the thing is, this card is really good, and Bandai has do it really good because it's 2k power, So you cannot KO it with one cost of Robin.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, you need reduction and then KO with one cost of Robin. So against Zoro, it's really good.
Yep.
Then it's free cost. So Lucci, if he has not a stage on board, he has to first swing with leader and then play Lucci. Or he can play Kaku, but he needs the 2 GP on trash. So if he has 2 GP on trash, I use Pastor and I play her later. I don't want him to play Kaku on curve, you know. So I don't know, I think this card is really good, and what's more, it's searchable with Gloriosa. So I think nothing more to say about it.
So I'm actually really happy you brought up those specific interactions. I think so many people look at a card like Margaret and they think of just the worst case scenario. They think RP Law. They're like, they're just gonna come against RP Law. They're gonna lead her ability. This card's awful. Like, but it's about the other matchups too, right? It's about playing into the other scenarios where, as you're mentioning with Lucci, where they do require leader ability swing, then a card into it. So you have a situation where, especially against Lucci, if they have to use leader ability, then maybe you could use something like a a snake dance to save it. And then they use leader ability on a character that they can't use on another one, right? Like, it's small value pieces that you can use to your advantage where you've kind of blanked their leader ability in a way. And then you're able to kind of take it from there. So I'm happy that you brought that up, instead of saying like, oh, this card's bad because it just dies to RP Law's leader ability. It's so much more versatile. And I think another one that I always like to bring up, that when you think of like a Dawn investment, right? If you think of Gloriosa, you know, you play Gloriosa, you find a Margaret. That's one Dawn, you draw one card. Then you play Margaret, it's 3 more Dawn to draw another card. That's essentially 4 Dawn, draw 2 cards. You pay 3 Dawn to draw 2 cards with Sanji's Pilaf. Would you pay 4 to draw 2 cards? Maybe. Honestly, it's not bad. If you went to like 5 Dawn to draw 2 cards, then I'd start be like, maybe. Then it starts getting a little too high. But the value proposition is there. And I mean, again, can't even be understated. Blocker is so big. It's so big. Can you imagine if this card had a counter on it? Can you imagine, even if it was like a 1k? Can you imagine? No, just insane. Insane. Being a blocker, even for me, especially against like blue matchups, and I mean black matchups, some Moria definitely not, but red matchups and blue matchups, the blocker is so big because blue matchups, they don't want to use Red Rock or Gravity Blade against this. It feels like such a small target. They want to save those for like Kaya's. And then against red matchups, I mean, they really, most of the time they only have counters, right? It's not necessarily main removal that they have, unless it's like a higher end mid-range deck, but stuff like Zoro can really get slowed down by something like this. Why don't you talk to me about some of the other parts of this list? And for everyone listening, this list is going to be down below. It's kind of that classic, as we mentioned, that Rampton list. Talk to me about what you think about the Gloriosa package. A lot of people were talking about Sengoku 7 Warlords. All of a sudden, Rampton comes out of nowhere and says, wait a second, Gloriosa Kuja Pirates is actually the way. Talk to me about Gloriosa, Snake Dance, Perfume Fiend. Give me your thoughts on the list.
Right. First of all, before you said that against Moria might not be really useful, Margaret, but being free cost, he needs another thing to play, to pop it. You know?
I mean that is fair. Every time I play against Moria, I have the worst luck. I feel like they always have the Perona as the first thing to reanimate, and like, you know what I mean? My experience, I hate Moria so much. That deck is so good. So maybe that's me being salty, but you're 100% correct. But yeah, so talk to me about the Gloriosa package.
Right. I think this package, the most insane thing is that too many good cards are being searchable with the searcher, and I think the Gloriosa must be one of the best cards of the deck, because as you said before, for 1 Dawn you might be able to draw 1 card, and then the most important thing is that you order the bottom deck of your deck. You get information, and I think this thing is really important in all your games, because you have knowledge of your 12 bottom cards. Maybe you are more likely to deck out there, so you don't trust the cards that you don't want to, and you draw the card that you want.
Right.
Yeah, so one done, being able to draw one card and order the bottom deck for me is pretty insane. It's not. Yeah,
It can't be understated. Yeah. And I mean, it's one of the reasons why a card like Buggy was so powerful, but especially now with something like Gloriosa. Buggy had Impel 4. It had 12 hits. I think Gloriosa roughly has, I think it has a couple more, right? Like Gloriosa can hit 4. It has 16 potentially 16 hits, because you can hit Perfume Femur, it can hit Snake Dance, Margaret, and Love Mellow, which is actually insane. It can actually hit Love Mellow. So it has it's more likely that you're gonna hit something. I have whiffed with Buggy so many times. You play a Buggy, you look at the top 5, you get nothing. It happens. But with Gloriosa, I found that happen so much less, a lot less. So you can definitely guarantee a hit from that. Talk to me about Perfume Femur. I think that's the most controversial card added to this list. A lot of people will say dead card. We're already playing Impel Down. How do you, what's your experience been with Perfume Femur?
That's true. It might be a dead card in your hand. It might be a little bit tricky, but yeah, being searchable for Gloriosa, and the trigger is draw 1. I think that's really enough to play this card in the deck, because you are really increasing your triggers with draw from, I think there was 16 to 19. Yeah. So you are increasing 3 more slots with triggers, so the chances of have one trigger in your lives increase really a lot. Yeah.
Right.
And this card, it's too long, does nothing, but in some matchups or some games, you might have to play it, because you can just play too long and remove it from your hand. So, for example, you have 5 cards in your hand, you play 3 more, and then you go to 4, so then you can draw with Mellow. Or if you are playing against blue decks that has pulling, if you are like 5 cards, 6, you might have to play it to reduce your hand size. For 1, it's like Impel Down. In too many games with Impel Down, I paid 1 to trash only the card or trash 3 cards to make my hand slower against blue. So I think it has many utilities. It's just not a dead card as it might be.
Yeah, no, and I think you're right. Like, it's not a ridiculous cost to just play out. Like, sure, it's not Impel Down, but I mean, especially with Impel Down, like, I feel like, especially towards the latter half of OP06 and OP05, I found a lot more that I was using Impel Down to reduce my hand size to enable Deathwing. But now, with a lot of folks maybe only playing 1 Deathwing or none at all, Impel Down is really just 1 done. You play it out, you empty your hand. So Perfume Femur being 1 more isn't that ridiculous. You're right. You're at 5 cards, you play it, and then all of a sudden your Love Mellows are online to be able to draw you a card. So I think you're completely right in kind of enabling that. But when it comes to having it in your hand, I think we can use that as a transition point. Talk to me about when this card and maybe an Impel Down is also in your hand. How does Apis play into the equation here? A card that feels like it hasn't been around since maybe early OP05. I think a lot of people moved off of Apis for a while. Talk to me about Apis.
I when I looked at Apis in previous formats, I think this card was good, but you have to you play 3 cards, to search 1. So the thing might be really expensive at the cost. But now that you are playing really a lot of maybe dead cards, like Impel Down, Perfume, and sometimes Snake Dance and Margaret are sometimes a little bit bricky. So having a piece in your hand makes you able to find other key pieces like Gable and Senispila for Kaya. And another good thing is that you can take Apis with Apis. So
yes. Yeah. So 2 things you just mentioned there that are really, really important. So many people are focused on the fact that Apis grabs Kaya or Pilaf, but it also grabs Rubber Band or Gavel, which are really good counters as well. I mean, if you can grab, I would be more than happy to grab a Gavel off of Apis. That's one of your best counters. And the fact that you can grab Apis off of Apis, you're right. I'm so happy you outlined that. That is more than so important, because I don't think, I'm trying to think here. I can't think of a searcher off the top of my head, and someone probably in the comics is going to correct me here. I can't think of a searcher at 1 that can search for itself. I don't think there is one at 1.
But in the, for example, Bonnie can, but he has to tap it.
Yeah. You have to essentially like pay 2. You're right. Yeah. You have, because you have to pay 1 and tap it. Yeah. It's
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a rare ability, and so at worst, I shouldn't say at worst because you can whiff, but your worst search is pay 3 cards and look for another Apis. You get a 2k counter. It's not bad. It's not bad. In your experience, right, with the list, how many times did you find yourself using Apis even when you didn't have Perfume Femur or Impel down in your hand to discard? Did you try and wait for those dead cards to enter your hand, maybe even like a Margaret, or did you just use it as a 2k counter when you couldn't like use it for its maximum value? How much did you use Apis?
The thing it's very important depending. So you have to think about the state of the game, because first in early game, if they are swing you for 6 and you don't have Desert Espada or Rubber Band, you can use Apis. It's fine.
Right.
To use it there to counter.
Yeah.
But I think later on you have to take account of how many Apis did you play, because sometimes you need Apis to finish the game.
Right.
And in my round 6 game against Enel, I needed Apis to finish the game, and I played Apis, and I got the last Gable of my deck, and I decked out thanks to her.
Perfect.
I think that you are not really likely to play Apis like Gloriosa. Like I pay 1 to try to search for anything.
Right.
You only play her if you really need, or if you have too many bricky cards on your hand. But yeah, too often she's only a 2k counter, which it's really good, because now in OP06 format, they said that swinging 6k against Nami, it's the best thing you can do. But now with Apis, it's not. I think it's not really good to swing for 6 right now. It's more difficult because you have 4 more counter to counter with at 6k attack, and I just see that Ramtin list of Chichibukai. Now he's playing free Crocodile, and the main reason for playing the free Crocodile are to stop the 6k attacks, I think.
And this is one of the things I love. So I try to make sure in my content I don't highlight too many ways to beat Nami, because I think a lot of people out there, they genuinely don't know, unless you play Nami yourself. A lot of people don't know how to beat Nami. They're told all this mixed advice: swing 9k, swing 7k. Oh, they got White Snake now, swing 6k. Like it's so context dependent, and I don't know your experience, because you had mentioned kind of before the conversation here that you don't have too much experience with the mirror, at least recently. I definitely have a lot of experience with the mirror, or even if not the mirror, because I play a little bit of Dofi and a little bit of Imperio as well. When I play against Nami, it's like a breeze. Like I'm in their head. I know exactly what they're thinking. If you leave 6 Dawn up, I know what you have. If you leave 4 Dawn up, I know what you have. If you leave 1 Dawn up, I know what you have. And this is the type of knowledge that I think no one has. So I'm happy to see like other Nami players like talking about stuff like this, like the concept of like attacking with 6, attacking with 7, attacking with 9. Just as a random aside, do you ever think there's like a situation where it's probably good to attack with 8k? 6 I can see because of White Snake. 7 I can see because you could have Rubber Band Spada. 9 is obvious because, Mellow and Gavel. But is there ever a time when you would recommend someone swing 8k at Nami? I personally haven't found a situation, but you're the better player. So is there a situation you could think of?
There are some situations, I think, but it's really rare.
Yeah.
Because I think when you have played 1 White Snake in this tour and you are 6k, if the opponents have played a lot of Gable and 4k counter, there are so many spots that swing for 8k. For me, it's really painful. if they swing for 8k.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there is not too many spots that you can swing. So that's really rare.
No, but that's good. I'm happy you highlighted that. That's good. So kind of going up to 6k with the white snake, and then you kind of read the situation there. Like, have they played a lot of 9k counters? Can you force them to have it? What type of situation are you in? It's good to highlight that. You were kind of bringing up the NL matchup there, and before we go into matchup specific, the last card I really wanted to talk about. I know we could spend so much time on stuff like Snake Dance and everything, but the last card I wanted to highlight was the one of Deathwing. So me personally, Deathwing is one of my favorite cards in this deck. Being a Magic player myself, I love like doing things on my opponent's turn. Instant speed, right? I don't want to do things on my turn. That's my turn, right? I want to do things on your turn. So Deathwing being a almost it's like a peel off on your opponent's turn if you can enable it. So it's one of my favorite cards, and I'm happy that Rampton had a one of, but he had it for bluffing purposes. How in your tournament did that Deathwing appear for you? Was it a bluffing engine? Did you play it a lot, or did you try and dig for it, like kind of look for it a lot? How was that Deathwing for you?
As you said, like Rampton was for the most of the tournament, it was like bluff. Yeah. But the thing is, sometimes that they swing you for 9k, I use like blue 6. Yeah,
exactly. I don't know.
I stop this attack, and even if I don't draw a card.
Yeah.
But in this tournament, there was not a spot that there was one card in my hand, and I played Deathwing to draw one. Only I had 2 cards. I played Deathwing, I draw one. That was the only spot.
Right.
It was really difficult. It was really difficult, but if the opponent sees that is in my trash, he might think that I'm playing more than one. Or if it's not in my trash, he might be really suspicious if I left free dawn. Maybe if I had one card in my hand, I have free dawn open, and it's not that when it's Sanji Pila, you know?
Right. No, yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
Pass, and then I do Sanji Pila.
No, and I think it's so important to highlight, because I've talked about this in a recent video where it's so different, and a lot of One Piece players don't know this. It's so different playing against a locals player versus maybe an average sim player versus a regional or a high level tournament player, because the mentality that these people have in these 3 different scenarios are very different. The sim player will probably never check your graveyard. They don't care that you played one Deathwing. They won't play around the Deathwing. The average sim player isn't good enough. I'm going to be honest. They're not good enough to do that. But when you're in a tournament, it's a big mind game, because those are the people that will check your graveyard. They'll be like, hey, can I see your graveyard? Because they'll see, okay, can I play one, or do I have to play around White Snake? No, I don't. There's 4 in their graveyard. Right? That's the thing. But then they'll see, oh, you discarded a Deathwing early. Okay, they're probably playing like 2 to 3 bar. Or you played a Deathwing here. Okay, maybe they have more. What do I play around? These are the type of mind games that are really valuable, because you can force your opponent into these suboptimal swings where all of a sudden, like, they see a Deathwing, and instead of swinging for 9, they overcommit and swing for 10. That's great. That's one less dawn you have to deal with, like in a future swing or whatever, because they're trying to work around a 9k and they're trying to force you to have Deathwing. So I think it's important to highlight something like that, where you mentioned like the bluffing is really important, and making them believe you have it, because the tournament player in something like a regional will check for that, whereas it might be a lot less relevant in a locals. But let's hop into that discussion about your matchups. Talk to me about your matchups in general. I have it on the right here. You went on quite the streak. You beat RP Law twice to start off. You beat Lucci, Black White Luffy. You beat Lucci again, NL, which was streamed, and then you ended up losing to Lucci and then NL Lucci. That was a crazy run. I'm not gonna lie. Like, NL and Lucci are, in my opinion, pretty tough matchups. If they draw well, like NL especially can get off to some really aggressive starts. I mean, come on. You started the tournament off by beating 2 RP Law players. Just in general, walk me through your tournament here. How was the experience?
I was first before the tournament. I was really nervous. I think I couldn't do well in this meta. But yeah, I tried to play another decks, but I didn't feel really comfortable. So I gave Nami another chance. So I in then in the first round when they come out, I sit down and I see a red purple Lao and I think, shit, like first round red purple Lao.
Yeah. I can't even imagine what's going through your head. I completely understand. That must have been like you're sitting there like, oh no.
Yeah. But that game was really bad for me because the Law played 2 extras Captain Kid, 5 costs. So then he do -3, he'd have
you just get it back. Yeah, literally just immediately get it back. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I saw all my white snakes.
Yes.
So I could stop too many swings. And in the end, my first life was triggered. So I took advantage of it. Yeah. And then at the end, I triggered my 2 last lives. And I think that made really a difference there.
Big difference.
I think I could deck out even with only 1 trigger more. Yeah, but the second trigger just won't make the game now.
Yeah.
But it was really tough.
Yeah. And like there's been plenty of examples out there, like especially on streams. I remember like 2 weeks ago or something, there was a Nami player on stream. I think it was a Japanese tournament. They had like 4 triggers against an RP Law player, still lost. Like it can definitely, like, Nami's just one of those decks. Like you can play it perfectly and you can still lose. Which can be a frustrating thing for some people, but it can be an exciting thing for some people, because sometimes it's just all you need is that last trigger to be a peel off or an impel down, and all of a sudden you're 2 cards up, and whether or not that wins you the game on the spot, it may just give you the resources you need to win the game. So that stuff is really important there. So RP Law, I think, this is a matchup that a lot of people have questions about. What is your general, if you don't have too many specific tips, what is your general experience, or what would you say to Nami players playing up against RP Law as kind of tips? Like, is it just look for your white snakes? Is there a specific card that you want to play a certain way around? Like, talk to me about the matchup.
I think the first thing it's that the opponent does not play 2 kids in a row, because that's really difficult for you. Yeah. So I think when he plays 2 kids, I think the game is almost over.
Yeah.
But then if you manage to see your white snakes, and then if you manage to play 2 characters each turn, he can only bottom deck 1.
Right.
And you can play a snake dance for counter and bounce 1 character.
Yep.
And more people think that Margaret in this matchup it's bad, but sometimes you are forcing them to play 1 character first, then do -3, and then he can only attack for 5s. And then you just white snake there. But yeah, Margaret, I think this matchup makes the Lao to don't swing freely before. He has to do -3 before to take her out.
Right.
Yeah. I think that you don't want to really see too much more +4 early on. You only want the 2 rubber band, white snake, that kind of stuff. Abyss here is really good because sometimes you can play Abyss and bounce back her with snake dance. So I think this matchup it's so important to have 2 bodies on board at the same time. Sometimes it's not possible, but you want that. Right. And I think in this matchup, the best trigger that you could trigger is snake dance.
Yes.
You can bounce back kid, and that is the Laws lose the turn there.
Yeah.
You're really making him delight. So yeah, I think that's it. It's not you hope for the best, so the opponent really don't open with aim, ramp too fast. Yeah, that's it, I think.
Yeah. No, there's 2 things I really want to highlight you mentioned there. So firstly, kind of playing 2 characters at the same time, forcing them to make that decision. And especially if you're doing something like where you play a Gloriosa or a Kaya alongside a Margaret, a lot of times they're forced to bottom deck the Margaret because they need to attack through, like them in their mind, like they have to bottom deck the Margaret. So it kind of becomes this magnet for them to attract into. And then all of a sudden the Kaya or the Gloriosa that you played alongside is available for you to snake dance. And then also, on top of that, talking about the snake dance trigger is so important. I'm so happy you brought that up, because you're right. Against the 5-cost kid, that's not a card that they can cheat out. They have to spend 5 Dawn to play that, right? Because their leader ability says 4 or less, kid is 5. And so, you know, if you're playing out 2 characters at the same time, chances are you have one out. They bottom deck one, you have the other one out. They hit you for 1. Snake dance then triggers, you return that character and you return a 5-cost to their hand, right? Like, these are the type of things that now Nami players have to adjust to, because your triggers aren't just Deathwing, bounce a card. It's not peel off, draw 2 cards. You now have to play around like, okay, what happens if Snake Dance is my trigger? Do I block with this Margaret, or do I leave it and take the hit? Or like, you know, things like that. You have to work around the Snake Dance. So I'm happy you brought those 2 things up. But RP Law in general can still be a tough matchup. You're right. If they have 2 5-cost kids up, it can be pretty hard to get to anything. That is, oh Lord, that's a tough one. What about the NL matchup? You played it a couple times, especially close to the top. How is NL and OP07? We obviously see a dip in yellow. Reject got banned, Katakuri's not around. NL is kind of still honestly doing really well in a world of RP Law, in a world of Lucci and removal. What's your experience with the list?
NL, I think now in this meta he don't play Holy anymore. You know, the Holy combo.
Oh yeah. Okay. For me, again, you have more tournament experience. So against top level players, probably completely fair. Against sim players, it's still 50-50. I'll tell you, there are some Holly players out there. So my experience, I'm happy to hear that in your experience in testing it at top level, they don't play that anymore, because I hate that combo. That combo sucks. It's so good against us. But I'm happy to hear that. Keep going.
So early on, with Freedom, he does not have any play. I think the only play he can do is Onami for 6.
Wow.
It's not really painful.
If they play Onami on turn 3, that's a big win. That's a big win for me. You know.
Yeah. Then Geratsu might be a problem, because you cannot play Margaret there. So I sometimes delay Margaret in my early on. After 5, I played maybe when he will be on 7, I go second. So yeah, Megatsu might be a little bit tough, but he has to see it. Some players only play 3, and NL right now is not playing the Searcher, the Sky Island. So it's really difficult to see. And then, yeah, the only problem about NL matchup, I think, it's the big bodies later. He just like do Yamato pass, not really a problem.
Yes.
But if you see proactive cards like Kaya, Pilaf, and you protect early on your lives, and you have some Margaret on board, Margaret in this matchup can only be taken out by Geratsu, Yamato, and Raigo, and later in late game. And sometimes he has played already to Yamato or something, and you are more free to play the Margaret.
Yeah.
And if he's not playing, I think in my tournament the NL was not playing Amaru, so he could rest the Margaret, because he was never more or less than 2 lives ever. He plays Amaru in one match. My opponent has 2 Ace, 1 Kata, and 2 Yamato. I have 2 lives. I got 4 Dawn open and 2 Margarets on board. And he for 6, he plays Raigo to KO 1 Margaret. So he has already wasted 6 Dawn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and for that reason, he couldn't finish me.
That's a great resource exchange. A great resource exchange for you, anyway, as the Nami player. Yeah.
Yeah. And my 10 Dawn, I played 2 Margarets in a row. And I got Sugego in my hand, so I was pretty sure he couldn't end me there. Only if he was Flampe Amaru, I died.
Well, yeah. I mean, 6 Dawn, you draw 2 cards, you have 4 Dawn left. Like, come on, the world's your oyster, right? Like, you have so many resources to you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So I think, this matchup, the only I only played but in one game, this game, when he played me 2 ace, is that early on, I think I lost dice roll and he went second. So I often do when I'm going first, I like to swing. Like if I went second, like I draw one card. So if I go first, I like to swing with my leader to use her effect of trashing the top card, so it's equal. If I was second.
Okay.
Yeah, but against Enel, maybe not the best, because if he goes to 2 lives, the Enels, the ace have rush.
Yes, that's the tricky part. Yeah, now in this new world, post EBO1, yeah, you gotta think about stuff like that. Yeah, you can't just give them, and especially, I mean, against like the color in general, yellow triggers are so annoying. Yeah, I mean, everyone knows that. Yellow's triggers are the most frustrating in the game to deal with, because it feels like all of Yellow's triggers are like trigger this card, I gain 50 life, or trigger this card, I play 3 cards. Like, Yellow's triggers are, oh lord, they're so unfair. So yes, you're right. On top of the triggers being good, having to deal with cards now that where they have less life, and gaining rush is really frustrating. But yeah. At least it's not. I'll tell you what. The card that I hate with rush the most in this meta right now is Kid and Killer. Kid and Killer and RP Law. That is the dumbest. That is, oh my god. If I could ban, honestly, it wouldn't be banned. If I could ban 2 cards out of RP Law, it would probably be like Gordon and like Reiju or something. Because Reiju draws them 2 cards, and then the Gordon is just, that card is so free. It's like 1 Dawn, and it just takes out like, you can take out like 5-6 cost cards with that and leader ability. Anyway, I'm ranting, but talk about RP Moria, RP and NL. Talk to me about the Moria matchup. I think that's a matchup that I think a lot of the meta has some struggles with, because it has such a unique mechanic of being able to recur cards from the graveyard. So it has this really interesting mechanic where you can counter out with cards, but then you can access those cards again. Not something that really any other part of the color pie. Heck, it's not really a thing that even black can do, because even a lot of black effects, all they'll do is take the cards and put them back into the deck. They won't get to play them again. So Moria has a lot of interesting kind of advantages. How do you find that matchup plays out?
In OP06, when I went to Krefeld, it was a 9-round regional. I think I faced 5 Moria. Yeah, and I think for me, in my experience, Moria is good matchup for me. I don't know if I played well or something, I don't know. But the thing is that Whitesnake in this matchup is really big, because almost all his characters are 5k bodies.
Yeah. So
the thing is that if Moria doesn't know how to play against Nami, you are taking advantage of that.
Yes.
Really advantage. How to swing there, it's really important, because too many players swing for 7 in OP06. So yeah, swinging for 6, so for 7 there wasn't the play there. And I really find Moria good matchup. I don't know, because even if he plays early things, I played the Impel Down package.
Yeah.
So Arabasque was really good there. I can bounce back things out.
Yeah.
Just to play again, and if I trigger Arabasque, I bounce back Lucci or something. It's really, really big.
Yeah.
And he has to wait until Moria to make plays, I think. Yeah, to wait cost. So if you win roll, you go second. And I think if he evens open with Perona, it's fine. If only 1 Perona comes out, the problem is he plays 3. Yeah. 3 in a row.
I mean, especially now in the OP07 list with a lot more dead cards, like you have Femur, you have Impel Down, like you're probably fine just discarding one of those cards anyway. Like, it used to hurt before because you would play like Deathwings and all these like active good cards. Now you have a lot more dead cards, like they play the Perona. Yeah, whatever, I'll just discard one of them. Yeah, it doesn't hurt as much, I guess. Yeah,
so the thing, I did not face any Moria in my tournament. The thing is that now I'm not playing Arabasque, so maybe the matchup will be more tough.
Yeah.
But like I said before, the Moria has to know how to swing.
Yeah.
Depending on the situation.
Yeah.
And how to play against Nami, because there are too many players. I think later on, when I had two cards in my hand or one, he could just pass. He swings.
Yeah. I've had so many players. I've had so many players, and people in my YouTube comments actually like they think I'm like trolling people for this, but like I don't know what your take on this is, but like okay. Let's say you're in this situation and you know in the late game you have maybe you're the Nami player. You have like 8 cards left in deck and you have 2 triggers, right? You have 2 life left. Your opponent can deal you 2 damage. They don't have lethal. There's no way they can produce lethal. The maximum they can do is you have 2 life, they can deal you 2 life worth of damage. And the opponent goes in and attacks. I think, in my opinion, it is severely incorrect to swing in that case as the opponent, because all you're doing is giving me, the Nami player, a chance to draw anywhere between 1 to 4 cards for free. And I've seen so many people like have that free attack. Like you should not be doing that. Do not swing, build your board, don't do anything, and then do it all on one turn. The turn after. But I've seen a lot of people in my YouTube comments, they'll be like, why are you mad at that person for swinging at you? I'm like, look, at the end of the day, if you don't have lethal against Nami, you haven't won the game. You haven't won it at all. I'm not going to scoop to you because at the end of the day, I could draw like 4 Kayas in a row and then still win the game. And I think that can happen against Moria too. Like a lot of times what happens in my experience is they play 8 cost Moria. They get overconfident. They return Lucci. They return like, you know, their Suru or something, and they're like, oh, I'm fine. Like, look at my board now. If you still misplay it, if you don't, as you were mentioning, if you don't know how to swing, if you're only swinging 5Ks and I have White Snake, that's your fault. You don't know the matchup, right? That's your fault as a Moria player. If you're not swinging high enough, you're still going to lose the game. But that's, you're definitely right there.
I got an experience in my Creflo Regional.
Yeah.
About one matchup, it was Sagazuki. He has on the board, he has 1 Moria, and he got 2 Lucci, and I think a Borsalino and the leader.
Yeah.
And I had 0 lives. I had 4 cards, I think, in my hand. And he just got 19. And I played 2 White Snakes. Then I played Mellow, Deathwing. And I think I got a label.
Yeah.
And then I stopped the attack.
You stopped everything. Yeah, like literally, like you swing 19K, 1 White Snake essentially stopped like 4 attacks. Like right there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was at 0 cards on my hand, and I was like 4 left in my hand. So 5. And then I top deck Theft. I play Theft, Trash 2, was Wakaya, I win. And the opponents were really mad.
Yeah.
If he swings for, I don't know, 16 and 7-7 with Luchis, I lose.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. This is the thing. There's so many cases where I have won against players and it's their fault. They didn't know. And it's not like they didn't play around this. They didn't play around like, okay, you don't need to like be super big brain, super smart. You need to play around my 2 decks. All you need to do is do the basics. If you're going to attach all 10 Dawn to something and not play around the White Snake, that's your fault. And then you're going to get mad. You're going to be like, oh, Nami's such an annoying deck. That's your fault. You didn't play around the White Snake. No, I'm so happy that was, I hope, well, I'm 50-50 on this. I want to say I hope that was a learning moment for them, but also as a Nami player, I hope that for future Nami players, that player doesn't learn so that Nami player can win. So I'm 50-50 on it. I hope they learn and I hope they didn't learn. But that is a very good example of all of those listening. If you're playing against Nami, remember to actually play around the cards that you play. As a Nami player, you have to know, like, again, play around the White Snake, play around what happens where, like, okay, you're thinking they don't have a Deathwing, right? Thanks to Snake Dance now, you can kind of build your own Deathwing where you can Snake Dance an Apis back to your hand, 4K, bounce the Apis, 2K, that's 11K. It's like a build your own Deathwing, right? Like you can do things like this. So you have to play around stuff like this. But before we go too far into interactions, talk to me about, is there maybe one or two matchups that you feel like you wanted to address here? Because the meta's like, I would say it's like diverse and not. I think we could talk about a lot of matchups here, but is there maybe one to two that you really want to highlight in your experience in the tournament, or just maybe something that you've came across a lot in testing?
I didn't test too much, but the reason I stopped playing Nami in OP06 was Black Yellow Luffy. I don't know if you feel the same, but for me, Black Yellow Luffy, I think it's the second worst matchup beside Low, because early on he can do stuff like playing really big bodies for really low down, and he can boost his leader. Like if he plays Flampe, then he goes to 4 down, he does Ijori, put one thing in your life, then he plays baby Ace, for example, and he does 7/7. He has 4 down. He's in me for 7/7, 4 down, he left a 5 cost body in board, and then I have 3 down to defend that, you know? And then I have to stop again next turn, Ace, leader. For me, it's...
So I'll tell you what, the big tech that all the Nami players had, that actually, so in my experience, a lot of Nami players actually, I think, agreed that in 06, Black White Luffy actually was a good matchup. You know why? Because specifically in 06, they played 4 Gravity Blade. In 06, the big tech that the Nami players were playing was 4 Gravity Blade. Because Gravity Blade is probably one of the single best removal cards in this game, right? Nami right now doesn't have too much space for it. You could probably play 2 in your list right now, but the Kuja Pirates list is pretty tight. A lot of people are playing either Gravity Blade, maybe they'll play Deathwing, maybe they'll play Red Rock, but Gravity Blade pretty much says 7 Dawn, remove 2 of your characters, because it just removed they play 2 5-cost characters, you pay 7 Dawn and remove them. And that's what it was. You bottom decked them. And that was the key, because you didn't return them to hand, you didn't destroy them, you bottom decked them, so they did not have access to them anymore. And so that's why I would say in 06, a lot of people had good matchups with Black White Luffy, in my experience, at least here in the West, because of Gravity Blade. Have you? I'm not sure. So I guess maybe you didn't get a chance to try Gravity Blade. What do you think about Gravity Blade?
In my case, I test a lot against my friend. We were really good with Black Yellow Luffy. First, I tried the Gravity Blade, and by the 7th dawn, I always have like 3 lives or 2.
I mean, that's fair. It can get really aggressive. Like if they, as you were kind of mentioning, if they have those insane starts and then all of a sudden like they play out like Yellow Luffy, the one that like buffs, the one that you lose a life and you draw a card. If they play that out with like Rush Ace, that's, I don't know, that's tough. That's tough. Like they had a really great start, but.
So the thing is, I had to see Gravity Blade, and then Gravity Blade for me was a little bit tricky because it's 7 dawn. Then if you use it, then you are only 3 dawn to defend yourself. So it's, I think, really. So I tried to play it with Dawson's War, and I feel really better with Dawson's War because with 4 dawn, I bottom deck 1 character, and then for me, then taking 1 hit, it's fine, only 1 hit, but that card is bottom, and then he has to play another thing. So I already delaying him, but if I wait to 7 dawn, sometimes I have to take 2 hits from one body, and I played a version with Dawson's Sword and Nojiko. So Nojiko for 2 dawn was able me to delay for 2 dawn and attack. Yeah, once back. I mean, it's on his hand, but I am already slowing him down. And then with the Dawson's Sword, I'm taking 1 out forever. And then I have more open dawn to play with. And then with Arabasque, I can bounce back Nojiko.
Yep. And then do it again. Remind me again, it's been a while since I played with 3000. So 3000 bottom decks?
Yeah, 5 cost.
And the trigger on 3000 was just you play the card.
No, it's free bottom deck and free cost.
Bottom deck and 3 cost. Okay.
Yeah, the trigger was the best.
Yeah. It was. I'll tell you what though. So I haven't played with a lot of 3000. Nojiko though. Oof. That's a good card. That I can't wait till Nojiko comes back into the metagame. I love that card. Nojiko was so good. You could like, oh, Nojiko, it was even a card that you could bounce with Zeph. When we were playing Zeph, you'd like Nojiko bounce something the turn after, you would Zeph, return it, play it again. Oh god. Nojiko is such a good card. But I will say specifically in that metagame, you know what, like you had to play 4 Gravity Blade. Like it's like I know what you mean. It's a really high Dawn investment. It is. It's a really high Dawn investment. I think it was like a necessary evil. It was I'll tell you what, 4 Gravity Blade, not 3, not 2, 4 Gravity Blade was the only way to make the Black-White Luffy matchup like actually good. Is the only way. Otherwise, I think you're right. It's a bad matchup.
Yeah.
Now, it's actually, so I don't know what your opinion on it is now in OP07. I think it's not bad because stuff like Margaret is actually really good against that deck because they do have that one Luffy that can like, I think it KOs Margaret. Like you have to like sacrifice it. You have to like trash it and then it KOs it. They have that one Luffy that does that, but they actually have to have that Luffy. I think that Luffy, they only play like 3 copies of or something. So I actually think like now this list is a lot better, especially because of Snake Dance's trigger. Because Snake Dance's trigger can bounce one of the 5 costs. I don't know what you think. Do you think the Black-White Luffy matchup is still just as bad in 07, or do you think it's a little bit better?
I mean, in my opinion now, in B7, with the Margaret, as you said, I think the matchup sounds playable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is that Luffy high rolls, it's really, really difficult.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. In my tournament, I played only 1.
Yeah.
I don't know which round. I
think it was like round 4.
Oh,
yeah, it was round 4. Yeah.
I think that was my hardest game there.
You did win it. Spoilers, you did win it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this was the dumbest game I have ever played. I could only do 1 play because I always die.
Yeah.
Because he had like Moria, 2 Luffys, Ace, and so I had like 3 lives, but I got 2 cards in my hand. So I had another play. So I just do Kaya. I had 0 cards in my hand, 6 left in my deck. He attacks, trigger, draw 2, trigger, draw 2, trigger, draw 2, and I win. Yeah.
If I was the Black-White Luffy player, I would have left. That's it. I would have taken my cards. I would have said anything. I would have been so mad. Kaya, 0 cards in hand, and then you go trigger, draw 2, draw 2?
Yeah.
That must have been so tilting. For you as the Nami player, that must have been amazing. That must have been the best 2 triggers ever.
I feel really bad about this, you know? It's like I shouldn't win there. You know?
No, but hey, that's why.
You know,
yeah.
I feel like when yellow trigger Capone.
Yeah, like there you go. You know what? We get to trigger good cards too. No. That's exactly. If the yellow players can do it, I can. Hey, if the black players can play a Moria, if the red players get RP Law, if everyone gets everything, we get something too. All right, I'm allowed to have my triggers draw 2 cards. So you know what? Don't feel bad about it. You're allowed to have your stuff too. Very quickly before we head into the kind of the final section of the conversation today, I don't want to take too long here. I do want to highlight BlueDoo because in the top cut, you did lose to BlueDoo, I would say like a very popular list amongst like it has a very good cult following, especially among content creators. Like it's a very like well-played list. I enjoy playing the list as well. It's a very cool list, just cheating out characters. What's your experience with the BlueDoo matchup?
After the tournament, I went to my hotel with my friends. 2 more of my friends has like laptops. So
right.
One friend led me one, and then there was 5 friends playing Luffy against me, you know. So the thing is, we played like 15 games. I only won 2. And I think I played at my best. Maybe I was a little bit tired after the tournament.
Right.
I really feel that the matchup was really, really bad for me. If Luffy knows how to play and he opens good, which often happens, like if he opens in the Weevil or something, it's like, I think these decks that play me 2 characters in a row with only 3 down 4 puts me on a really bad spot. And then Blue Luffy having access to bottom deck.
Yes.
And the worst thing, it's pulling. Pulling, it's horrible. It's horrible to play around. And the guy played 4 pulling. And I didn't know because the decklist were closed. So we couldn't see.
The closed list. Yeah. 4 putting is crazy. Like Dofi list, I swear, only play like a max of 2. 4 putting is like, I mean, they're attacking for something. That's tough. That's tough. Putting is really tough.
Yeah, I think I played at my best that matchup. In my first game, I left only 1 card in my deck, and I only triggered 1 card on my life.
Yeah.
But I think it was good enough because having to play around pulling and taking lives, triggering there. You have more than 5 cards. You trigger or not, you go to 7 cards.
Yeah.
And then he can play pulling.
Yeah. And I think like especially with this OP07 list now, like you're definitely like I think a lot of people have played and have noticed this. Like on average, you have more cards in hand. It isn't like OP05 Nami or OP06 Nami where like you're playing a lot of Deathwings and you're playing Mr. Ones to return Gavels. So you have like generally speaking a low hand size. In this deck list, like you're playing Gloriosa in a Margaret's, you're playing Gloriosa, you're playing Snake Dances in your character. So generally speaking, you have more cards in hand. Putting is so much more punishing. It's really tough. It's really tough with this iteration.
The thing, it's unlikely OP6. You have many tools to make your hand size lower.
Yeah.
Like Abyss, Impel Down, Perfume.
Yes.
You have many tools to play. I think I played Fremor a few times against Blue Luffy because I had like 7 cards and I wanted to have 6.
Yeah. So make the bunny like less enticing. Yeah.
Yeah, my opponent has pulling in his hand. He noticed that I played Fremor there and he thought that was a really smart play there.
Yeah.
So he didn't play pulling there. He had it on hand and he waited.
Yeah.
And then he saw that my hand size was going not lower than 6, and he started playing me pulling at 6 cards.
Yeah.
Reducing only 1 card.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay for 4 dawn, only reducing 1 card, it's fine.
Yeah.
But reducing 2 or more, I think.
Yeah. It's undoing like a Deathwing, it's undoing a Kaya, a Pilaf, like it's a lot of value. And even over time, like if they're reducing, like if they're taking your hand size down from 6 to 5, if they do that a couple of times, like if they're putting you twice, or you're playing at 7 cards and they play there's the blue 4-cost law where if your opponent has 6 or more cards and you return it, they bottom deck a card. Like if they do that even once or twice, like it can add up. That's a whole Pilaf, 2 Pilafs, 2 Kayas like worth of cards that they've now undone. It's almost like playing against RP Law at that point. The amount of cards that they bottom decked for that. So it can be really tough to make that. And putting is just so much worse because like it shuffles your deck. So if you've played like Gloriosa once or twice, you've bottom decked and you're like, okay, I know what I'm drawing, and all of a sudden they putting, you lose all your information. You don't know what you're playing into late game, so it can be really tough. But yeah. Okay, so we've gone over a couple of the matchups here. I think we're going to go into our final section here. We talked a lot about Nami, talked a lot about 07 here. Before we head into the final couple of questions here, what is your general feelings about Nami and OP07? Do you think it's a meta deck? Do you think it's still like do you think it's C tier based on like RP Law everywhere? Like what are your hopes for Nami going into this OP07 meta?
In my opinion, I think after this tournament, I think Nami is really playable in this meta.
Yeah.
And there are bad matchups, but like all the decks have bad matchups, I think.
Yeah.
low, it's bad matchup, but the opponent has to know how to play it correctly.
Right.
Yeah, it's really bad, but if you play good, you have good luck, maybe in your triggers, you can manage to go through it. Yeah, I don't know. It has not too many bad matchups, but now if they start to play blue decks, it will be like maybe a little bit painful there.
Right.
You can still win against blue, but I think you have to know how to play the matchup really perfectly.
Yeah.
You can not permit any misplay there.
Yeah.
And I think Nami, it's for me. I have played in too many decks: Sakazuki, Moria,
Yeah.
right below. I think Nami is the hardest deck I have played.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, but I really remember the bottom deck, what I'm bottom decking every game. So I think it's really mental. You know, I have to think a lot, remembering every card I bottom deck. I have to try to not confuse what cards I bottom deck in my second game and not confuse them about my last game.
Yeah.
So doing these 9 rounds in a row, it's, I think, not too many people can do it. In my opinion.
I and like what you're saying is like it's a whole nother type of skill. Like so many Nami players don't understand exactly what you just said, because like so many, like even when I'm playing, like when I'm recording 3 games in a row, I'm forgetting like, yeah, no, I put a Kaya at the bottom, and I'm like, wait, why isn't Kaya my 10th card? I'm like, oh wait, that was my NL matchup 2 games ago. You're so right. Like the skill to differentiate that, it's not just about the level. So level 1 is like, okay, remembering your bottom deck. Level 2 is being able to differentiate that between games. And then level 3 is doing that over a course of like a 9-round tournament. That is a understated skill. Like it's so valuable. And especially what you're saying in general with Nami being probably one of the highest skills, if not the hardest deck to master in this game, just because of like the play style is so unique to it. Like you don't have a lot of transferable skills from other decks. Like if you were a Moria player and you're playing Nami, like there aren't too many skills that are transferred into it, right? Like it's so different based on how you play. And even just beyond that, like the skills that you were talking about where, you know, knowing what card to use when, right? Like the difference between you using a rubber band versus a spada in a certain situation is so different, because maybe you accidentally use a rubber band, you milled a card, and that card is a peel-off. Whereas if you spotted, you would see that the peel-off's there and you might rearrange it to the top, right? Like these type of things, like they really change how the course of a game goes. And sometimes it's not in your control, because as you mentioned, you know, you played against the I think it was like you were saying the black white Luffy player, where you go Kaya, no cards in hand, you let RNG take over, and you know your last 2 life for triggers. Sometimes it works out that nicely. Sometimes your last 2 triggers are Margaret, and then you're sitting there with 2 dead cards in your hand and you can't do anything. You know, it's just the way it works. So you're right. Nami's hard. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it does. That's where it is. So you already kind of answered this, but do you play other decks?
Right now in OP07, I did not have too many material.
Okay.
So if I wanted to play Luce, I should have borrow some Saos from a friend or something. So that's why I mainly play Nami. Didn't feel really good playing Black Yellow Luffy. For me, it was really mechanical.
Yeah.
And I need to test it more to play it correctly, because I did 2 misplays. And then Lucci, it's a really good deck to play, but it's a little bit scared to play against Black Yellow Luffy. Yeah. Because you will against Black Yellow Luffy or you don't. And if you will against Black Yellow Luffy, you are losing some things about other matchups, and you cannot still maybe win Luffy. Yeah. So I don't know.
I know, like I've heard that the Lucci matchup into RP Law isn't bad, which is why a lot of people are playing Lucci right now. Like they're saying like, okay, you know, by percentages, if I play Lucci in a tournament, I'm going to play against a lot of RP Law. So percentage wise, you know, I have the edge. But you're right. Like you have to make a lot of concessions in your deck list to try and shore up the matchup for Black White Luffy. Even if you do that, you probably still are at losing odds. against that matchup. So it can be tough. It can be tough. But I think you're right. Lucci is surprisingly, like, I feel like it came out of nowhere, but Lucci, I feel like it's good. I feel it's good. It's good. What are you excited for going into the future of the One Piece TCG? So, you know, beyond OP07, what are you looking forward to in OP08? What are you looking forward to in OP09 if you've been following the spoilers, or even beyond that? What are you excited for?
The thing is that in OP8, the meta in Japan is horrible. Yeah, you know, the Black Maria.
Yeah. That card is...
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna say I have so much to say about that card. That card is so bad. That card is so bad. Poorly designed. That card is so poorly designed.
Really leader restricted. That's usually only Animal Kingdom for sure.
Yeah.
And the thing it's 2K. Why? It's 2K active main. It's not on play, it's active main.
It's such a poorly designed card. It's so busted. It's so busted. It's like Black Maria is like the card that Purple has wanted since the beginning of the game. Like, since the game started, Black Maria is the card Purple wanted. It's so good. I don't even know. I can't even like understand who thought this card was good, because this card single-handedly will get, like, we have the B&R announcement in August. In my opinion, this card will single-handedly get like 4 cards banned. Like, Black Maria is gonna get banned, RP Law is gonna get errata. They're probably gonna ban, like, I don't know, freaking Gordon and like something else. Like, it's gonna be a crap show because Maria is awful. That card is so poorly designed.
I think it's like Red Purple Law. It's like Nami. Bandai has to be careful about what cards are taken out.
Yeah.
For example, if they take another draw 2 trigger blue card, like Impel Down, even if the card is useful, only for the trigger, we are gonna to play it.
Yeah.
And having more triggers, it's really, really dangerous for the meta, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nami, it's a deck that can be careful, that can be dangerous, depending on what cards they're taking out.
Yeah.
If they take another thing like Sanji Pilaf, or Mirror Nami, I don't want. I like to play Nami because I don't really have to play too many mirrors.
Yes. Oh, the Nami Mirror. I've told people so many times, if you want to tech against the Nami Mirror in OP07, just play 4 Apis. That's all you can do. There's no Zephs anymore. The best thing you can do is play 4 Apis, because Apis is a mirror breaker. The more Apis you see, the better you'll do. That's it. And it's awful. It sucks. Like, it takes the mind games out of it. It really feels like a game of solitaire. Like, each of you are playing your own game. At least with Zephs, there was a mind game. Like, you could play Zeph and then you're like, oh, are they going to swing? Are they not? Now it's like playing solitaire. It's so bad. But I think you're right. Bandai, I'll tell you what, I think Bandai has done a very poor job of balancing blue. I think too many people have given me this excuse of like, oh, the design space of blue is limited because of Nami. And I think that's not true at all. You can very easily leader lock a character or a card. You can very easily just say, oh, if this has 7 Warlords type, draw 2 cards. Okay, there you go. It's not a Nami card anymore. That's it. That's all you need to do. That's all you need to do, right? Or you can say, as long as your leader isn't Nami, I don't know, draw 2 cards. I think like saying Nami limits design space just kind of says Bandai sucks at making cards. And I think Black Maria is a very good example of Bandai not being able to design good cards, because that card is awful. The whole interaction with, okay, you know what's that? 6 cost card. It's purple. It costs 3 less if you have 2 or less daughter or something like that.
Sanjay, yeah.
That card in combination with Black Mark.
Yeah.
It's so bad. It's such a poor interaction. Like
you're playing for free because a character, it's a vanilla that has 1k more power.
Yeah.
It has blocker.
It has blocker. Why does it have blocker?
Yeah, but it's blocker, 2k, 6 cost. So black decks have a really bad time facing Sanji.
Yeah.
Then 2K, you can counter with blocker. You can swim with Sanji.
It's so bad, and I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, purple has gotten no support for a very long time. Purple's been a bad color. Okay, but did you want purple to become the next busted color so you have a card banned out of it? No. They're like, oh, yellow has been busted. Look at Big Mom. Black has been busted. Look at ACOS Moria. That doesn't mean you get a busted card. Why don't we just balance those cards? Why don't we just ban those cards and make better cards? Why would the solution be to give purple a busted card? Anyway.
It's like when OP06 come out. When they reveal the cards of Ryu, the leader, when the Ryu SR come out, yeah, I think this card Red Purple Lao.
Yeah. I think Reiju is definitely like, that card is one of the cornerstone pieces, because like that's the only way they have to like come back in a game, and it's just a free draw too. Like it's pretty much, it says for 0 Dawn I get a 4-cost 5k body and I draw 2 cards. That's insane. Like that's astronomically insane. What that card does.
The thing is, in UP4, there was one moment that when the ban list came out, that there was new age restricted at 1, many cards were banned. Red Purple Law was really popular in that at the end of the tournament, but the thing is that you could starve there, you could do not attack for leader, and he just ran out of cards.
Yes.
Then for life, it doesn't matter, you go 5, 7, 9, 11.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's not now. If you don't attack Red Purple Law and he plays two Ryu, you are not good there.
You're done. And then in OP08, they're drawing all these cards, and then they got Moria into Sanji. They got Black Moria into, oh my god, there's this other card. Oh, I'm forgetting it. It was a spoiler. I just did like a video on it because the combo's insane. It's like whenever you return cards back to your deck, it does something, and it like pardon?
Maybe 3 cost pulling, you get another dog.
Something like that. Yeah, whenever you return cards, and it just insane synergy with Black Maria. It's just like free synergy with Black Maria. Yeah. No, and look, I can talk for days about Black Maria. That card 110%. I'm saying it right now. If Black Maria doesn't get banned in August, like I genuinely might refuse to play the game, because the whole meta will just be RP Law. Like I genuinely will refuse to play the game. That's not fun. It's just going to be RP Law everywhere. That card is egregious. It's awful. I'm excited for that card to get banned. I'm really excited for that card to get banned.
Maybe restricted to Animal Kingdom. I think it will be the better.
Restricted is also an option too. I'm definitely open to that. I'm not like something needs to be done about the card. My personal biggest problem, even past Black Maria, is the fact that RP Law's ability works without a target. The fact that it doesn't force you to have a target on the opponent's side. You can just -3 and play a character out for free. That's what I hate. I think that it should have forced you to have a target on the opponent's side, because that way, like even if your opponent's playing like 5 cost, 6 cost, whatever, the RP Law player can't play anything because they can't bottom deck anything. There's no targets. That is my problem. I feel like RP Law, the ability should have forced you to have a target. It shouldn't have been free. But that's I think what would have fixed this whole problem. But I'm not a game designer.
And the thing is that Black Maria allows some other cards that are really big, done expensive, that on play you have to do the manage one. And you can't play these cards because of Black Maria. The 4-cost Law broker. They trash 2 cards of the opponent. Now in this meta is not played because you're having to do the -1. I think it's really bad. But if you have Black Maria, it's for free. You can play.
There's no disadvantage. There's no disadvantage.
Black Maria, or Queen. Maybe Queen. It's sometimes you don't play Queen because of the -1. But if you can play Queen -3, Black Maria, and return to Dawn.
And then you have like some amount of kids out on the field too. Like it's like the Black Maria doesn't like. There's no disadvantage.
And the thing is that Black Maria active main that's not rest the character. You know, it's
why doesn't it rest it? No, I'm telling you, if you let me rant about this character, I could go on for years. You're right. Why doesn't it rest it? Why doesn't it rest it? Why can't I attack into it? Why do I need an on-play effect? Why do I need an event? Why do I need something to kill this? It's a 3-cost 2k that rams that doesn't rest. Oh my lord, it's so poorly balanced. Like, why didn't it have 0 power? Why didn't it have like 1k? Like there's so many ways they could have balanced this card, but it's not. It's so bad.
4K. It's 4k power.
Like
I don't know.
It blows my mind that Kabaji was pre-banned. They didn't even let Kabaji go. They pre-banned Kabaji, but nah, Moria. But Maria's fine.
Let me tell you, when I saw the Japanese meta,
yeah.
I was already buying the pre-release Kabaji to play, and then and I got 2 Kabaji pre-release in my binder.
Yeah. Don't worry, one day, maybe one day.
Maybe. But I think Kabaji it's really strong.
It is really strong.
Maybe if the meta develops, the power creep, I think it might be playable because you have to play 8 cards in the deck.
Yes, it's not just Kabaji, exactly. You got to have the whole package.
But the thing is, there are all characters.
Yeah.
So I think you cannot play too many characters on Nami.
Yes, that's also another thing. It doesn't have a trigger. It's only a 1k counter. Each one of the cards, like Kabaji and its counterpart, is a 1k counter. So it's not even like, if it was a 2k counter, sure, but it's a lot of characters. Yeah.
There are 2 discard one.
Yeah. After the first one, after the first Kabaji, it's just card advantage, because you have to play the other card to enable the Kabaji's effect. So you're 2 for 2. After that, it's 2 for 1, or like no, sorry, it's 2 for it's 2 for 3. It's 2 cards for 3 because you have to play the Kabaji out. Sorry, I'm misunderstanding the card advantage. And then after that, it's 2 for 2. You're just going and going and going. You're right.
You can bounce back Kabaji with maybe now it's Deck Dance.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think the card should be unbanned right now. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous that Black Maria is legal and Kabaji isn't. Anyway, I'm not going to rant about Black Maria. That card is insane. I guess let me go into like 1 or 2 more questions, because I know we both kind of have our own time limits into this, so I don't want to take forever here. I think the last question I'll ask you: what do you think about Nami as a win condition in the game? Nami is the most unique deck in the game. It is the only one with an alternate win condition. Do you think that is good for the game? Do you think Nami's healthy for the game? Do you think they should introduce another win condition? Maybe it's not milling. Maybe it's like you need to have like these exact 5 characters on the field, and then you pay 5 Dawn, and then you win the game. Like, I'm just making something up. Like, do you think alternate win conditions or Nami is good for this game?
I think it's like, like the Black Maria.
Yeah.
To be really good designed. But I think Nami it's healthy because it's not really strong, and you can not really win the game too many times with this rule. And you have to the deck you have to play good. Sometimes you have to be lucky in your lives. So it's like playing Katakuri, If you play Katakuri and you got 3 triggers on your lives,
how are you losing? Yeah, like you can't lose. Yeah,
you are losing. Yeah. So the thing is, the win condition it's good design, but I don't really know. For example, to create a new one, I think Exodia and Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah. That's kind of where I was drawing my example from. Like, I was trying to think of like other ways like games have their alternate win conditions. But yeah,
Exodia and Yu-Gi-Oh. It's maybe
not exactly. Can you imagine if you just had the cards in your hand? No. That the game's not ready for that. But
I think it's in one piece. They should. So if they do like Exodia, they restrict each card 1 copy. No searcher, So, but you know, there is in online tournaments there are too much cheating.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I think that would be. It's like the webcam tournaments would be plagued with them. It'd be a little bit harder to do something like that. Like it would have to be really bad and then like added over time. Like I think the only way they could do something like that is like you have to have these exact 5 characters out on the field, and then you have to pay 10 Don, and then you win the game. That way, you can't play the 5th card and win the game. You have to go through a whole turn cycle, and you have to have each one of those 5 cards, which means it's loose to removal. Like if your opponent removes one of them, you don't have a game plan anymore.
So the
like,
thing is, they might get a rogue deck like for fun.
Exactly.
But I don't think there will be another deck like could do good in competitive play. Like Nami. Because you know the win condition of Nami it's enough. Like it's good, but it's not really good. You know. So I think
it's exactly as you said it too. Like I'm happy the way you worded it, where it's, you know, you can still lose if you play perfectly, right? Like you have to play perfectly. Your opponent has to like play into it as well. Like if your opponent plays well against Nami, even if you play perfectly, they'll still win, right? Like a lot of times, like Nami players win because your opponents don't know how to play against them. It doesn't beat every single matchup, and the key thing is the win isn't deterministic. It's not like I know that if I play these certain cards, I'm going to win. No. A lot of times you only win games of Nami at 0 life because you need to see all 5 of your triggers. You need to make sure you're drawing 2 cards. You need to make sure, like, you need to go through all of your life to even win the game. So that's why it's a very like high roller type of matchup. And I think that's like a healthy place for it. And I think you're right. It's literally exactly everything you said. It's in a balanced state right now. And that's what's important. So I'm happy you agree. I think it's in a good place. As we end off this interview here, is there any final thoughts or statements you wanted to make? Is there any final things you wanted to address before we head off?
Yeah, being a Nami player since you feel free. There is a play that I couldn't do in the sim. That was like there was all the counter cards are not mandatory to give
yes.
Recently, you can choose to give the counter to the or not. So there was one play, you know, that use Gable, don't boost the leader, trash 2, and then you take the life.
You still take the trigger. Yes. This is a very high skill Nami play. There's so many people that don't realize that this is actually something you can do, and I think actually now it's a lot easier to see on the sim because some people just don't read the card. The sim actually gives you an option. It says boost up to 0 characters, and then you can just choose 0. So it's very clear. But in paper, like, people forget this is an option. This is a very, I'm so happy you highlighted this. This is such a key interaction, especially at the end game where you realize like, okay, I need to take this hit to see if it's a trigger. But I also need to play this Mellow. I also need to play this Gavel. I also need to play this Rubber Band because I need a Miller card.
So
very important interaction.
Before I couldn't test it really good in the sim because I could not do this. So I test in person, you know.
Yep.
So now that they able this thing out, it's perfect.
Yeah, I think the other one that was actually like I was made aware. I didn't actually know when I first started playing the game. I think it was enabled like late in OP05, but just playing Impel Down, you couldn't do that on the sim. And especially when we were playing 4 Deathwing, that was so important. You really like there was I mean, okay, as someone who played like hundreds of games of Nami, like in like a month span, it came up a lot of times where you could not just play out Impel Down to empty out your hand, even for 1 or just to discard 2 other cards. But now you can. So you can buff. You can choose to buff your leader or not. You can choose to play Impel or not. Very important things to highlight.
I think when I wanted to play the Impel Down to choose 1 card and I couldn't. I report the book to the sim owner, you know. I couldn't do that because But
what was funny was he actually tweeted out. There was a tweet I remember I interacted with. He's like, "All right, I'm going in and I'm updating the interactions for all blue events. Shout out to my Nami players. Can you tell me what I'm missing?" Like he knew he was going into a whole sim debugging session for Nami players for these events, and he tweeted out, he's like, "Nami players, please tell me what I'm missing because I'm getting tired of all these bugs you're reporting." Yeah. So that was hilarious. I'm so happy that like we didn't just ignore it. We actually reported it and moved it forward. But yeah. So all right, that brings us to the end of this discussion. I would love to have this discussion for longer, but I know I'm on a limit. You're on a limit as well. And you know, thank you, Juan, for joining me for this conversation. I hope you continue to play Nami, even if you don't for OP07. I hope you come back to it, whatever it might be. We'd love to have you kind of continuing to bring this archetype back. Why don't you give us some kind of closing thoughts here? Anything you have, and we'll kind of end things off.
Right. Like I said before the video, I'm really grateful that you sent me an invitation to this interview and to your YouTube channel. I have seen some video of you. And it's like good to see. I open YouTube and it appears Gravity Blade on Nami. It's like really cool to see that there are many community playing Nami.
Yeah.
And what's more, I would like to give some shout outs to my friends.
Perfect. Yeah.
All the community in Barcelona, my friends David, Mark, Christopher, Eric, Antonino Borsi. I'm more that if there is a really big list, so I could mention anyone.
You can't shout them all out, yeah. Yeah. Okay, shout out to all of those that are helping Juan succeed, helping Nami get better, whether it's better or for worse, whatever it might be. Shout out to all the friends there. Thank you, Juan, for joining me on this interview here. I'm more than happy to have you back. You know, if you make any big changes, if you top 8, you top 1 a tournament, I'd love to have you back. But yeah, I'm here again, platform the Nami players, give y'all a space to have this conversation, and hopefully we'll see more from you in the future, in the near future and in the far future. Hopefully we see more from you. Perfect. All right, thanks everyone. Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining me on this on this interview here. If you haven't already, like the video, leave a comment down below what you'd like to see from Juan in the future. Let us know what you think about everything we've talked about today, some of the OP07 deck lists, some of the kind of thoughts around the matchups. And hopefully we'll be here for not only with Juan, but future interviews with other Nami players as well. Thanks everyone for joining us, and have a great day.